All 17 anime studios explained. Video by Kovak. So the way we're going to do this is we're doing two things at once. We're reacting to this video where we have 17 anime studios explained to us. Obviously, there are more than 17 total, but I guess this is the 17 most popular maybe. But while we react to this video, we're also going to be filling out the tier list of the studios that are talked about in this video. This tier list is going to be interesting, right? It would be easy to fill up the first 3 tiers with the studios we have down here. And so what we're going to do, we're going to limit how much we can have in each tier. There will only be 1 S tier studio, 2 A tier studios. I'll leave 5 slots for B tier, 4 slots for C tier, 3 slots for D tier, and 2 slots for F tier. All the tiers need to be filled by the end of the video. It just comes down to where the studios fall.
All 17 of the main different anime studios.
All right, I think, I'm not gonna lie, can you name these studios based off of the characters blurred? We got Toei, Perio, now this is kind of hard, Ghibli, Ufotable, A1, Wit, Science Saru. I can low-key do that, but I'm not doing it right now.
Explained in chronological order, starting
chronological
off with the
order.
oldest anime.
Okay, interesting. We're going chronological order. I like that. All right, starting off with
Toei Animation.
Toei.
That was founded in 1948.
One Piece, DBZ, Sailor Moon.
One Piece, Dragon Ball, Slam Dunk, and
Slam Dunk. I'm not gonna lie. Toei gets carried by the fact that they scooped up the classics early. Let's just keep it a stack right now. These two right here, and really right now, it's mainly only One Piece. One Piece is carrying the brand. Dragon Ball doing some good work too, but they really not, like, when One Piece ends, Toei might be in hot water, bro. Because I don't know if they really tapped in with the new gen like that. They're gonna have to start picking up some new stuff.
Bunch of other iconic animes.
Yeah, Digimon, Sailor Moon. What's that? The Big O? I'm not really too sure what that mech is. Is that Gundam?
It's safe to say that they are a massive studio who have helped bring a lot of anime to the West, and sometimes they're considered the Disney of the East.
Disney of the East? I don't know if I'd say all that. Disney has, like, for one, Disney's more of a film studio now. No, they got Disney Channel. Maybe it's the closest thing to Disney in the East. But even then, Disney is still more all-encompassing. Disney has films. They got Star Wars, Marvel. They got the Disney Channel. They got the Disney parks. Disney has their hands in a little bit of everything. Toei is cool, but I don't know about Disney.
However, the downside to their massive size and just being around for so long is that they take on loads of different anime.
They did. Did they take Yu-Gi-Oh? They did take Yu-Gi-Oh. But I don't think this Yu-Gi-Oh was Toei. This Yu-Gi-Oh right here isn't the Toei Yu-Gi-Oh, if I'm remembering correctly.
Projects, and then that often hurts the animation quality, meaning that it's often a mixed bag.
I wouldn't even say that. I don't even know if it's because they have so many projects, because really now they don't drop too much contemporary stuff. The thing is, Toei is a mixed bag because they don't have to, like, innovate. You know what I mean? They have the big money shows before anime was even a thing. You know what I mean? They really started this shit. And so, like, they just now are getting to a point where they're keeping up with the new studios. But even then, they have so much merchandising money in their pocket, and they have so many infinite wells of money through, like, Dragon Ball, One Piece, Sailor Moon, shit like that. Like, they're good. They're good for life. And yeah, they had the weekly format for a long time post meta.
You just have to look at One Piece. Sometimes it's peak.
But I think Toei has stepped it up with One Piece lately. Like, since like the turn of 2020, I think they have stepped it up a lot. I think they locked in. I think they realized they kind of had to get with the times, you know?
And then other times it looks like this. But with so many, like, long-running massive shows, their reputation cannot be understated. And also what is cool is that unlike a lot of anime studios, they're actually unionized, which means that compared to most, the working experience is actually pretty good. Next.
Yeah, they don't got a bunch of contractors, like, fighting for their lives. All right, let's rate Toei. All right. I'm not going to lie. If we're going off pure production quality in the modern era compared to the rest of these on this list, I would say we're looking like up B at the high end, but maybe down here. Reminder, we have to fill out all these slots: 1 S tier, 2 A tier, 5 B tier, 4 C tier, 3 D tier, and 2 F tier. Okay, this is going to be hard, especially figuring out what we're going to put in those F tiers. I think I'm going to throw 𝙏𝙖. We have 4 C slots, 5 B slots. I think I'm going to throw 𝙏𝙖 in C. And I'm going to throw 𝙏𝙖 in C because, yes, they are massive, but they're massive off of the backs of shit that, you know what I mean? They're not massive because of modern innovation. They're kind of resting on their laurels to a degree. Unionization got to push it up to B tier. That's a good point. I didn't know about them being unionized. But I'm going to drop them back down because these niggas be hoeing with copyright, bruh. Oh my God, do these niggas be hoeing with copyright. And like, I get it, Japanese copyright law is different than the US copyright law, but I'm holding that against them. I'm holding that against them. 𝙏𝙖, I'm going to give them a solid C. A lot of these other studios stand on the backs of, you know what I mean, 𝙏𝙖. All these other studios to a degree. But in terms of their modern day output, it's just One Piece, bro. It's One Piece and a Dragon Ball thing every now and then. So yeah, I'm going to drop 𝙏𝙖 in C for now. Let's see what we got next.
Is Madhouse,
Death Note,
one
Madhouse.
of the most respected anime studios for producing so many high quality anime. For example,
now look,
they've made
before we even get it, actually, bro's probably about to get into it. He's probably about to get into it himself.
Death Note, the first season of One Punch Man, the most recent version of Hunter x Hunter.
Like, come on, bro. Look at that roster, bro. Death Note, still being watched to this day, all-time classic. One Punch Man Part 1, Season 1. Okay, they not in charge of that new shit. Let's get that out the way. They not in charge of that new shit. Hunter x Hunter.
Hajime no Ippo, and most recently, Frieren.
Come on, bro. That's a stack right there. That's a stack right there. Let's go back to that stack real quick. Because I think that's a good, hold on. Death Note, which is a 20-year-old classic now. That shit is 20 years old.
Death Note, the first season.
We got One Punch Man, which is like a, kind of a show that brought a lot of people into the medium. You know what I mean? Changed a lot for anime as a whole around 2014?
One Punch Man, the most recent version of.
We got the new Hunter x Hunter, the 2011 Hunter x Hunter. Again, one of the best adaptations in the game.
Hunter x Hunter, Hajime no Ippo.
We got Ippo, some classic shit. Real back in the day classic shit.
And most recently, Frieren.
And then we got Frieren still pushing the new gen. And look, if we really want to look at it, if you look at the roster here, bro, the pure strength of the roster, one thing I've always respected about Madhouse is that they got your big hitters, your Hunter x Hunters and your Death Notes. Monster, come on. They got a little something for everyone. They got your broody, gritty seinen. They got Frieren, coming in with the new gen. They got some fantasy sludge in here. They got, Perfect Blue. They got your experimental shit, your movies. And we can keep scrolling down, more experimental shit. Sunny Boy, pretty experimental. And one thing that I think is underrated about High School of the Dead. Okay. They got your horny shit though. They feeding the horny niggas. That's important too. You know what I mean? I think Madhouse has the best stack. I don't think they do any one thing stand out like other series or like other studios. But I think they're the most well-rounded, consistently performing at a high level. And so what I'm going to do for Madhouse, all right? So we're only going to have two studios in A tier and one in S tier. What I'm going to do for now, I'm going to put any studio that can potentially be S tier. For now, I'm going to put it in A. So A is going to be filled with 3 studios at the end of this list. And then we're going to choose which of the three goes up to S at the end. But I think Madhouse is solidly an A and is an S contender. If not because of, the quality of individual shows like Frieren and, like Death Note and how long those stay around. If not because of that, at least because of just how much influence they have all around. You know what I mean? Like Ippo, Hunter x Hunter, and Frieren in one stack from one studio is crazy.
One of the main reasons for their growth was because one of their co-founders and later president, Masu Maruyama, had a great eye for talent, which meant that Madhouse was able to work with some elite anime directors.
Interesting, I never knew that.
Such as Satoshi Kon, Marumu Usoda, and Masasaki Yusa. However, in 2010, Maruyama, now in his 70s, left to make Mappa because it seemed that he wanted more creative freedom.
And I mean, Mappa is, they are definitely at the top of the new gen. I'll say that. They're still a pretty young studio, but they're at the top of the new gen.
And he took a bunch of key stuff with him as well. This did hurt Madhouse, but they still dropped Frieren, and I mean, that anime is complete peak. It looks so sick. So I'm guessing that they're doing fine, to be fair. However, in terms of workplace conditions, Madhouse has been known to overwork their animes. And
that boy went from Madhouse to Mappa and kept the same demon scheduling.
Unfortunately, like a lot of anime studios that we're going to find out in this video as well.
Yeah, most of the studios here are kind of crazy.
Now, like
all right, Sunrise, 1972. This is pretty old. I'm not too
1972,
familiar with Sunrise.
And they have also completely changed the game of anime. Before Sunrise,
let's hear about
anime was often produced by
Astro Boy,
the main creator of the manga, or one studio who would invest everything and take the complete risk to produce the anime. But Sunrise pushed a producer-led model where multiple companies would invest, spreading the financial risk to produce a certain anime.
What's this? Some Gundam
Their
shit?
first big
I believe
success
so.
was Mobile Suit Gundam in 1979, where they went on to drop other classics such as Cowboy Bebop,
Bebop,
Gintama, and Code Geass.
Niggas say Gintama. Ooh, Code Geass. All right. I was already thinking about like throwing them in lower tiers just because I don't know what they're doing today. But I think that Code Geass, in my mind, for, the type of shows I care about, that Code Geass kind of saved them. Because, like Burneron said, Code Geass is peak.
They're also known for great animation, and they have the coldest nickname, which is Sunrise Smooth, which that's just the best nickname. Similar to Toei, they are another massive anime studio, and therefore their
But what are they really doing today, though?
Because they just have so many different
I don't know if I've heard much from them.
But when they do put
we're going to have
the
to check them
time
out.
and money and their best teams to it, they really can cook some amazing visuals. Also, their workplace culture does seem to be pretty good compared to a lot of other anime studios.
Noted. All right, let's see what Sunrise is cooking. Oops. Nigga can't type today. Also check Toei Mount. I mean, we don't got to get too deep into Toei. We all know how Toei gets down. It's absolutely carried by One Piece. All right, Sunrise got some... They got some bangers on here. It's really this first row and then Inuyasha for me. It kind of carries it. A lot of this other stuff I could do with or without. A lot of Gundam stuff. That seems to be like their thing. I mean, this is a decent stack, but if we're going off modern rankings, I don't know if I can even throw them. I'm not sure what type of bone I could throw them, right? Because what I'm thinking now is that, like, okay, there's a lot of history here, right? There's a lot of studios that stand on the back of Sunrise. But we got 5 B slots. I think I'm going to give them a solid B slot. They're not doing anything crazy in the current era, but I respect the legacy. I might have to drop them, though, because there are a lot of studios here that are doing, I think, more interesting stuff in the current era. And so I don't know. I have to decide how I want to weigh legacy versus, what they're doing right now. Because a lot of these studios aren't even old enough to have legacy like that. So how do we, how do we grapple with that? We'll have to see.
was also founded in
All right,
1972.
Studio
meaning
Perio.
that three
Perio.
massive anime studios were all formed in this year. Their first big success
I didn't know
was in
Perio was that old.
2002 when they dropped one of my personal favorite animes of all time,
Naruto. Okay, yeah, that's like their big one. I have some words for Perio, but I'm gonna let bro talk
But then they
first.
followed this up with Bleach and Black
Oh, okay,
Clover.
they did have Bleach and Black Clover. Okay. I have some words for Perio.
And as a result, their reputation, especially to create amazing shonens, is up there with the GOATs. Studio Pierrot, like a lot of older anime studios, is so massive. So again, like I said before, the same thing applies here, where the animation quality can vary
a lot. To be fair, the pain fight was still fire.
But as we've seen, you know, if you've watched Naruto or Bleach, some of the episodes are peak. And also special shout out, they also made Boruto, which I'm not a big fan of, but the Sasuke and Naruto.
The Sasuke versus Jigen shit was fire. I was thinking about that the other day. Is Boruto ever going to come back? Like, what's going on with that?
Has to be up there, one of the greatest anime fights I've ever seen. And also what's kind of cool is that in terms of working conditions, their managing director Kiyomo Utsumi recently came out and said that they have increased their overtime pay by 20%, and they...
Hey, that's cool. That's cool. You always like to see niggas getting paid, especially when you know how wicked the industry could be these days.
Recognize that animators are not just computers and that they need rest, which seems like obviously common knowledge, but in the anime industry, this is actually very rare for one of the managing directors to actually come out and acknowledge this, and hopefully they'll lead by example and influence other anime studios to do the same. Next is Studio Gainax, which...
Okay. So, I guess first thing we'll do. All right. T-Ghoul. Okay. Yu Yu Hakusho. Okay. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a big Perio, whatever you call it. I've never been a big fan. I think they happen to pick up some very strong franchises. Aren't they also Witch Hat? No, Witch Hat is Bug Films. I think they happen to pick up some very strong franchises. Naruto and Bleach mainly. You know what I mean? They kind of did the same sort of thing as what we were talking about with Toei earlier, where they invested early in very big franchises that would go on to pay dividends. However, I don't really see them moving in the modern era. And it's not just like Toei where they're just not making new stuff. I think they're actively fumbling. in the modern era. They fumbled Boruto by doing that dumbass weekly schedule shit when, you know, mid-2010s, it was pretty obvious the meta was, hey, let's not do weekly. Let's do really good 12 to 24 episode seasons once per year. You know what I mean? And that's how My Hero, Demon Slayer, JJK, insert shown in here, that's how they took off. Meanwhile, you know, Perio was trying to go weekly with it. I think Perio in its prime definitely is, you know, up in the B, C tier, but with how much they, and again, this is part of them being a victim of their time, so I don't want to hold it against them too much. They did bleach TYBW, that's true, but I think that's too little too late. You know what I mean? Like, and they are coming back with the new Black Clover, but I'm not going to say it's too little too late, but I think in the modern era, I haven't seen enough from them where I can, you know, really put them above C. We have to fill 3 in D tier and 2 in F tier, which means 5 of these studios are going to get hoed a little bit. You know what I mean? And I think with the way things are looking, if we look at the filler issues, if we look at the lack of contemporary shows, if we look at, you know, the way they fumbled the ball with some of their contemporary shows, I'm saying D. I'm edging into F. I'm edging into F. But I don't want to do them dusty like that yet. Because I do respect what they did for the 2000s. If the 2000s, you know what I mean? They basically had 2 of the big 3. If that splash hadn't been as big as it was, then we might be looking at F. If you put Toei in C, you got to put Perio in C. No, I disagree, because I think Toei still got, even if they're It's because they invested in bigger brands. Toei has done a good job maintaining their IPs. You know what I mean? One Piece maybe lagged a little bit behind, but they locked in, and now it's the biggest anime in the world, across the world. So even if Toei is getting carried by 25-year-old IPs, they didn't drop the ball like Period did with the Narutoverse IP. You know what I mean? The fact that Boruto had 400, 100, whatever 100 episodes of filler that just got a large chunk of the fan base to go, yeah, no, we're just ignoring that. That's a fumble. That's an insane fumble. And that's above any fumble that Toei did in their roster. And so I think Period, the best I can give it is D. But we might be looking at bumping it down. Depending on where we have to put the rest of these. So we'll just have to see. All right, Gainax.
Formed in 1984, and only a couple years later had their breakout anime Gunbuster, a mecha anime.
Gunbuster?
But they
Interesting.
then went on to
Evangelion, right?
Completely out of the park, releasing Neon Genesis and Evangelica.
And I think this nigga said Evangelica. I think this is going to be what carries Gainax, which we'll have to open a dialogue about it in a
biggest
second.
animes of all time that literally revolutionized just how popular merchandise could be, and honestly just became a massive part of pop culture in Japan. And from there they went on to make other popular animes.
Classic. What else they make? Fully Cool. Okay, so they doing their experimental shit. I didn't know they did Gurren Lagann.
So infamous for what is known as a Gainax ending, which is when a show ends weirdly or abruptly. You'll notice if you've watched some of the animes that I mentioned. However, in 2019, their former president, Tahiro Maki, was arrested for sexual...
Okay, yeah, I didn't even know that, but the moment I heard former president of an anime studio was arrested, I knew what it was going to be on, bro.
assault of a teenager. There were also reported corruption of funds.
And
in May 2024,
they
Gainax
dissolved, didn't
they? Ending this once great studio. Now, arguably, the anime studio with...
Okay. Now, look. I mean, he already kind of went over the shows at hand, right? I keep hitting the wrong button. Sorry about that. All right, let's take a look. Ava, Fooly Cooly. Is that Panty and Stocking? Damn. They do a lot of the experimental shit, which I can respect. However, and I love my art housey weird nigga experimental shit, bruh. So I don't want to do what I'm about to have to do. But the fact that they dissolved, I don't even want to pin that weird assault shit on them because that was one dude. I don't want to bring down the whole studio for that. But I think the fact that they dissolved, like, just aren't around anymore, I gotta go F. You know what I mean? I respect the best of their work, but I respect the best works from all these studios, right? All of these studios have, 2 to 3 amazing works, S-tier works. But I can't, like, you know what I mean? Especially looking at, like, it's F. I'm sorry. We have to, again, we're trying to make this tier list interesting. It would be easy to put them all in S to B tier, maybe C. But if we have to fill out 2 Fs, I think Gainax, a studio that hasn't put out some hot shit in a decade plus and got dissolved, that has to be the F. What tier would you put it at if they didn't close down? I would still be looking at F because I didn't see anything on that list. You know what I mean? That was really popping in the past decade and a half. And if we're doing this as like at like current runnings, you know what I mean? Like a current ranking, I think we have to weigh contemporary influence just as much as we weigh legacy influence. And so even then I would still be looking maybe D, but like D to F. Is Cloverworks going to get a mention? I don't think so. No. All right, let's see what's next.
The most distinctive style and widely
Ghibli.
best known Ghibli. This is because only 2 animes have ever won an Oscar, and these were Spirited Away and The Boy and the Heron, both of which are made by Ghibli. That is some aura.
My light turned blue. Ghibli aura changed the color of my light. Give me a sec.
In 1985, Hayao Miyazaki and
Miyazaki.
Isao Takahata both left Toei Animation and joined up with Toshio Suzuki.
Okay, so I didn't know they started at Toei. Maybe that's why they went the route they did, the much more artistic, slow and steady route, because they were in the grinder.
To make Ghibli. Now, what's interesting about Ghibli is that they're different from most anime studios and that they predominantly make movies instead of animated
they don't
TV
really make shows,
this
do
is
they?
because they want to have amazing visuals, which you'll know.
I would say this is probably closer to the quote unquote, what was it, Disney? What'd they say, the Disney of the East? Like, again, Disney is kind of all encompassing here in the West. But this, if we had to fuse two studios, I would say like Ghibli and something else. But Ghibli has to be in the equation.
If you've watched any of their work, but that would be impossible to do that.
The only difference, and this is going to come into my ranking, is that, and again, from an artistic perspective, this is arguably a good thing. It keeps the quality high, it keeps scarcity high, it keeps the value of the product high. But they're not the most prolific studio. They don't put out the most work, which again, when they do put some shit out, it's usually pretty strong. I think some people do forget, and actually let's look at the roster now while we're talking about it. I think some people do tend to glaze a little bit when they talk about Ghibli works, right? Like they put out some great all-time list shit on this upper row, but they also put out some like, you know what I'm saying? But they did put up some all-time lists. Right, like this row, honestly, these first two rows, you know, in my eyes, that's some all-time lists. That's like some real change the game influential shit. But let's finish hearing what bro has to say before we do our ranking.
Something like a weekly anime series. If you've also ever watched a Ghibli movie, you'll know that their visuals are extremely
amazing, bro. This shit, I get hungry every time I see this panel, boy, or not panel, this frame, boy. Man, I used to not be able to see this frame without immediately wanting to make bacon and eggs, bruh. And it never comes out as fire as it came out in this movie.
Them, and that is because they use even more hand-drawn animations compared to most studios with even more detailed backgrounds.
They are extremely dedicated to the art.
It just gives this super unique look that I'm personally a massive fan of. Kyoto Animation.
Okay. Ghibli. How many do we have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, I'm going to put them. I think we're going to give them one of the A slots. Right? Again, and reminder, the A slots where they stand right now can potentially bump up to S at the end of the video. Where they stand right now, they can potentially bump up to S. But for now, we're going to have it pending in the A slot, and then we'll have our A dialogue at the end of the video. All right, Kyoto. Another very good studio.
Or how it's commonly known as KyoAni, was founded in 1985 by a married couple, Yoko and Hideaki Hata. KyoAni first built its reputation by doing high-quality support work for other studios, and then gradually moved into producing their own major anime, with its biggest hits
Silent Goat
being Violet Evergarden.
Oh, I didn't even. Yeah, they did do Violet Evergarden.
What's super cool?
Whoa, no, a silent voice mention, and we talking about biggest hits. Let's let's respect my goat, Shoko Nishimiya.
What about them is that they built a reputation for being the golden standard of world culture while still having great high-level animation.
Points for.
This is largely because KyoAni hosts the Kyoto Animation Awards, which ranks them on 3 categories: novels, manga, and scenarios. And then the winners, or the best ones, they then get made into anime.
That would be, bro, imagine winning that award. That must be fire.
KyoAni licensing them, meaning that they get a much larger portion.
Like they are so fire. They have a competition. They don't bid for you. They don't bid for your show. You bid for their studio. That's fire.
The profits compared to other animation studios. And then with this money, they're able to have full-time salaried employees compared to most animators by other anime studios just getting paid as freelancers. However, tragically,
the fire. Damn.
2019, KyoAni's #1 studio was attacked by an arsonist. The attack killed 36 people and injured more than 30 others. And in January 2024, the arsonist was sentenced to the death sentence for the attack. And it came out that
dumb lawyers was not playing. Homegirl looked like she ready to carry out that sentence today. Golly.
Came out that his motive was believed to be revenge because he claimed that 𝙏𝙖𝙡𝙠 had
stolen one of
his
several
work, which was
novels?
never proven to be true. However, unfortunately, the studio has begun to bounce back, with it releasing anime such as Sparks of Tomorrow and
yeah, this is supposed to be coming out soon. We might have to give that a peep. Even if we're just doing it on the Patreon exclusive, I do want to watch this on stream, at least a couple episodes.
City the animation since then. Next, we have production.
Okay. Let's look at the shows first. Let's look at the shows first. Kyoto. A goat voice. Violet Evergarden, Clannad, Hyoka, Dragon Maid, K-On. There's a specific type of nigga that this is probably their S tier pick. I think personally, oh, they got another movie coming out too, huh? I think personally, let's see how many we got left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 left. We have to start filling out some of these B slots and C slots. I'm gonna go B. I'm gonna go B because although their output is easily A to S tier a lot of times, the frequency of their output kind of draws them in a little bit. You know what I mean? And I also think they have and this is not a bad thing. This is not a bad thing. But I think they have a specific feel of show that they don't diverge from too often. The frequency doesn't matter, IMO. I think it does when you're looking at overall ranking. When you're looking at overall ranking, you have to balance artistic quality, influence, and clout. I think that is one of the only conversations when frequency does come into account. Because then you could just have a studio that drops one thing fire, 10 out of 10, and then they would automatically win. But what I was going to say about Kyoto was that I think compared to other studios, and this, again, isn't an inherently bad thing, but it is somewhat of a critique. They have their niche, you know what I mean? They have their niche, and they do their niche well. But, like, I don't see them, like, they're very slice of life, you know what I mean? A lot of cute girls doing cute things, sort of. I mean, even, like, if you, like, squint your eyes, all of these key visuals kind of look the same, right? They utilize the same sort of blues and palettes. And again, doing one, you know, having your niche and doing it, that's honestly the best thing you can do from a business perspective. But, you know, when we compare it to some of the other studios we have on here that have dipped their toes in Slife and exceeded, and dipped their toes in Shonen and succeeded, and dipped their toes in mystery and succeeded, you know what I mean? I can't necessarily put them on that same level. And so I'm going to go B. I'm going to go B. That's what I'm going to do for Kyoto.
Production IG, which was founded in 1987 by Mitsushi Isukawa.
What was this, Production IG?
Goto. And that is where the IG in the name comes from. I for Isukawa and G for Goto.
I see. I thought it stood for Insta. That nigga's stupid as hell. Nigga think it's Instagram.
Goto. Their biggest turning point was when they released Ghost in the Shell, which came
oh,
out
okay,
in
they did Ghost in the Shell.
And was
okay.
directed by Marumu Oshii.
We got a new Ghost in the Shell coming out by Science Sorrow too, don't we?
It became one of the most influential anime films ever made and helped define the cyberpunk anime genre.
Yeah, the cyberpunk era was something,
and influenced Western sci-fi so much that it was actually attributed to influencing The Matrix. Since then, they've gone on to make both Haikyuu and
Haikyuu.
Kuroko no Basket.
I didn't know they did Kuroko no Basket either. So it looks like they're in the sports niche now.
Two of the most goated sports animes of all time, with Haikyuu single-handedly raising Japanese volleyball to new heights. They also
that meme was too funny. That nigga slid like crazy.
own Wit Studio as a subsidiary. These
are
the
they
guys
own
who made
Wit.
AOT
No,
and
that I didn't know.
Of Vinland Saga, who I'll get onto soon. But before that, I need to talk about JC.
Okay. Let's look at IG. Production IG. Okay, so it looks like they're crediting them with wit stuff too on here, huh? But I think I'm gonna give AOT shit to wit. Yeah, it looks like they're popping up for everything they're credited in, which I don't know how I feel about that. Like, we already know this was Gynax. Yeah, okay. This is gonna be hard to get a accurate. For all we know, these niggas could have done 4 frames. You know what I mean? Hold on. It's gonna be hard to get an accurate look at their exclusives. But based off what I've seen, I think I kind of know the direction I'm looking at for them, right? All right. We have to start filling in some of these C's. We have to start filling in some of these C's in B's and D's. I'm going to go. This is hard. I'm going to go. Let's see. We said we need 4 C's, 3 D's, and 5 B's. I'm going to probably go C. I'm going to go C for IG. Ghost in the Shell is great. Very influential. Haikyuu and Kokodo doing their thing. You know, but if we're looking at their impact on sort of the modern era and where they stand currently, even if they do a lot of collaborative work, I don't think they really have anything hot out right now. I don't really think they're actively in the mix. I do like Haikyuu a lot, and that's kind of what's keeping me from dropping it to D. But it might be on D watch. I'm not gonna lie. It's right now. It's like in a C passive D for me. But yeah, let's keep it pushing.
C stuff. These guys kind of have a reputation, if I'm being honest, of being a budget anime studio. The most infamous of this is because they did the most recent series of One.
Yo, look at this shit, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Should I react to the next season of One Punch Man, bro? Like, I don't want to come on here being mean and shit. That's why I didn't react to the last one, but I'm not gonna lie. We might. That might be some free views.
Punch Man and the last season, and I'm sure if you've been online, you're aware.
But hasn't JC made some fire?
Predominantly PNG animation.
Like, they have some fire in the mix, right?
Season 1 was done by Madhouse, who I mentioned, who are known for having amazing animation. So the contrast.
Maybe having like JC staff be having random fire. If you really hold on, let's pull it up real quick. They be having like random heat in the mix. Where like when you hear you're getting a JC anime, you're like, oh, like which one? Like good JC staff or Bun's JC staff? You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. Big Dora? Was this a fluke? Was Toradora a fluke? Oh, I'm going to have to give the Toradora studio an F tier, aren't I? Y'all don't know about that. Psyche K, Prison School. Like, they're not abysmal, bruh. They're just buns. They're not abysmal, they're just buns. How did they put out Toradora? This must have been like a passion project or something. They must have had like a goated director. I don't know. I think I'm ready to rank them though. I think we know what has to be done here, right? We know the format of this. We know someone got to, again, all these someone got to be an F, bro. Someone got to be an F. All right, we filled out all of our F tier slots. So now we don't got to disrespect any more studios. But I think the bankrupt studio that hasn't put out anything in 30 years and, you know, JC staff, which has niggas shivering when their favorite series gets a JC staff adaptation. Like, they're the closest we're going to get to F with the rest of what I'm seeing here. Unless I'm misremembering. We'll see though. We'll see though. Again, things are subject to change. This is not final results yet. This is not final results. Things are subject to change.
Even worse. And you know, like I said, Madhouse have been out for so long, they have a much bigger budget and they can attract elite animators. I do want to preface this by saying I'm not trying to shit on JC staff. I'm sure that they're all super good at what they do.
For sure. Just horrible time, money, and constraints.
It's more so that JC staff, just as a philosophy, the higher ups believe that it's better to produce a shit ton of anime, and therefore as a result, obviously the quality is not going to be amazing most of the time. They kind of have the much more quantity over.
Yeah, they just looking to get shit out, which honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they make him bank just off of like the amount of content they're putting out. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, maybe not with merchant stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if they made more bank as far as like being commissioned as a studio than like something like, you know what I mean, Kyoto, which is doing their shit, you know, slow and steady and solo. You know, this is unfortunately, especially in the modern media landscape, you know, shit is kind of skewed in favor of a JC staff approach.
Quality approach to making anime. However, in stark contrast to this is Studio Bones, which was formed in 1998 by former Sunrise staff members and quickly became known for
FMA
specializing in amazing fight scenes. And
they do have them squabbles. My Hero.
That's a reputation that has stayed with them to the present day. His first big hit was Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is one of my favorite animes of all time. And then from there, they went on to do My Hero Academia and Mob Psycho, which again...
they did Mob. I'm not going to lie. I was definitely thinking they were solidly in the B convo. But now I think A might be in order. I forgot about Mob. OG FMA, of course. But again, like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to let something that came out 17 years ago now weigh too heavily in how I'm looking at modern rankings.
You know that some of the scenes in those shows is just incredible. But arguably an anime studio with even more iconic...
Okay. Ooh, okay. I think A tier, there's going to be a lot pending in A tier right now. I think, well, let's start with looking at Bones roster. FMA, My Hero, Mob, Noragami, Soul Eater, forgot about Bungo. Okay. Space Dandy and them. All right. They do have Gotcha Yakuta too, right? Yeah, and what's the shit we're watching? Demons of the Shadow Realm. All right. Let's see. We have 2 A slots, 1 S slot. We still got to fill out these Bs. I think I'm looking B for Bones, and here's why I'm going B for Bones. These are all great shows, but from what I'm seeing right here, we're missing one aspect that I weigh pretty heavily. And I'm trying to scroll down to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Okay. I haven't seen all these shows down here, but my one critique that I would have for Bones, which would make me put it in B, is that I think, and Mob does kind of undo this a little bit, but I think outside of Mob, they're like a bread and butter studio. You know what I mean? They do their shonen action shit and they do it well. Particularly, and I would even say they do a lot of their shonen are like the sort of slifey shonen. You know what I mean? The shonen that dip in the slice of life a lot. Soul Eater, My Hero, Bungo, even FMA. FMA is a bit more of an epic than like a slife sort of shonen. Yeah, Space Dandy is pretty art housey. I forgot they had Space Dandy. But even then, that's one series. Bones kind of competes with Madhouse in my head. But I think Madhouse for me just has higher highs across the board, right? We're like, all right, we look at Madhouse again, right? Because right now these two are fighting for that A to S tier slot in my mind. Like, all right, we got our all-time classic FMA adjacent with Death Note. You know, we got our big shonen with Hunter x Hunter. But then we, like, you know what I mean? We dipping into Parasite. We dipping into High School of the Dead Ecchi. We dipping into Monster and Frieren. You know what I mean? Our seinen big boy philosophical PhD shows. We're dipping into experimental art house movies. We got the 80s class. Like, come on. You know what I'm saying? You feel what I'm saying? Like, maybe it's just because they've been around longer, but I think Madhouse just has a better stack. Bones is giving us new gens like Gotcha Kuda, and that's cool. But, like, you know, Madhouse is moving still too. If Madhouse didn't have Frieren on their list, we would be having a much different conversation right now. I think Frieren does to an extent carry Madhouse's current output. But, like, you know what I'm saying? They still have it. So Madhouse right now is still in the S to A running. Yeah, I just can't put Bones. I can't put Bones up there with Madhouse and Ghibli.
Animation quality for fightings is ufotable. They were formed just in the year 2000 by Hikoraku Kondo.
Okay, ufotable is new. 2000s, that's like a 20-year-old studio. Now we're getting into the new niggas on the low.
They first get traction working with the game
Fate,
company
right?
Moon, where they adapted their games into animes such as the Fate series and Garden of Sinners. However, their big break was in
Demon
2019 with
yeah.
Demon Slayer, which became an instant hit, especially for its crazy level of animation.
Yeah, I think ufotable is kind of like the animation studio. You know what I mean? That's what they're known for. And we're going to get into that in a second.
They then released Demon Slayer Mugen Train.
God damn, bro. Loud ass motorcycle. Nigga, Bones done sent they hitman to come try to do a drive-by on motorcycles or something. What's going on, bro? Fucking up the video recording. Let me chill though.
Train movie, which became one of the most successful anime films ever and grossed over 500.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. We do have to talk about the fact that they put up those money. They put up the money. You know what I mean? They put up the money. They doing the numbers. They doing the numbers with movies too. Not many studios on here can even say they delve into movies, much less putting up the money with the movies.
And $12 million, becoming the highest grossing film of 2020 globally.
That's not even the new Demon Slayer film either.
I have to give a special mention to the Demon Slayer explosion from the last season.
That shit was beautiful, bro.
Never seen an explosion done so well in anime.
Damn. Them niggas lit Muzan up, boy. Oh, that was fun.
The reason how
also Genshin working, I've heard about that. Genshin tapping in with ufotable too.
Is because the studio has a strong emphasis on digital composition, unlike other studios, and that gives Demon Slayer a unique, polished, glossy, and just expensive feel. Almost like it's
true.
A live.
The compositing is beautiful, bro. Like I say, they low key get carried by compositing.
Blockbuster shot with anime characters. A1 Pictures was founded.
Okay, sure. Get that whole ass nigga Sung Jin Woo out my face. Is this nigga wearing a hoodie with no zipper? Ugly ass nigga. Anyway. Let's look at what ufotable got in the mix. We got Demon Slayer, and then they're gonna go into Fate. Okay, what do we have besides Demon Slayer and Fate? Some other shit. They've positioned themselves very intelligently when it comes to making money, and so they don't have to have a crazy output. But that also means they don't have a crazy output. You know what I mean? They're known as the Demon Slayer and Fate studio, and you know, I guess soon they'll be the Demon Slayer, Fate, and Genshin studio. I mean, we have 5 slots for B. I think I'm gonna go B. You know what I mean? The quality would put them SA. Whoa, crazy. The quality would put them in S or A. Whoa. But the output and sort of the sameness of their series, quantity puts them in B for me. I feel like that's a valid take. You know what I mean? I don't think anyone's really disagreeing with that. All right. A1 Pictures, Bum Jim Woo, what's up?
2005 by Mikuro Iwata,
Another new
performer,
studio,
sunrise
2005.
producer. It was also created by Aniplex, which is part of Sony Music
Aniplex. Fuck you, Aniplex. Always copywriting my shit. What's up with you?
Entertainment Japan, meaning that A1 had a powerful corporate backing from the start. They quickly became known for being very versatile, but also having varying anime quality. Some of their best stuff includes sword artwork online and
I think it says sword artwork. Okay.
of course solo leveling, but they're kind of like JC stuff to my understanding.
Do they have that much of a variation?
In that they
I've only really heard of
anime,
the good shit.
That not a lot of them get the love that these mangas deserve. Unfortunately as well, they also have one of the worst reputations in terms of work.
Oh shit. Wow. Side of anime worker recognized this job. Damn. Okay, that will be put into account.
Place conditions. Tragically, a 28-year-old who worked there for 3 years and then left, only a year later died for suicide. And then in 2014, Japanese labor authorities recognized the death as work-related, saying that excessive workload contributed to his depression, and reported that he'd worked over 600 hours in 1 month, and that overtime was not...
Damn! 600 divided by 4, 600 divided by 3 is... What? What? Holy.
Properly managed. Now, 8-bit...
Oh, okay. Oh, I think we're going to talk about 8-bit in a second. That was one that I wasn't familiar with. We're going to have a... Anywho, let's focus on the right now. What were we talking about? Was it JC? No, A1. A1 Pictures. A1 Pictures. Okay, I'm sure we're going to get some great... Okay. Sword Art Online, Erased, 7 Death. Hold on, Kaguya-sama. Every time I see some buns, I see some fire shit that fixes it in my mind. We got to scroll down to some of these lower rated. Okay, now we're getting into like Fairy Tales. They put out a lot of shit, huh? Are they doing the most recent 7 Deadly Sins stuff? That's also a question. Promised Neverland, Strange Fake, Sword Art Online, Solo Leveling. Okay, so they have the potential for quality. 86. Let's see what we have. I think we're gonna have to, because again, as hard as it is, you know, this is a very competitive tier list where certain things have to be filled. How many? We need 3 in D tier. I think we're going to have to look at a D tier placement. Just based off of what we have left. How many? 4 slots in C, though. I'll give them a tentative C. How about that? Willing to go up or down, either way. Let's move on. Because I'm well over the 40 minutes I wanted.
It was founded
8-bit
in 2008, and they are best known for Blue Lock, and I got reincarnated as a...
Oh yeah, this might be F, I'm not gonna lie.
Slime. If you've seen Blue Lock, you know that when they put the budget in, they can cook. I mean, that last episode was insane.
It was... Nigga gave the kick sonic booms.
When they don't, it's bad.
It's literal PNGs. This is the worst animation we've talked about today so far. Let's get that out the way. This is the worst.
Most of the season 2 of Blue Lock, though, apart from that last episode, you'll know that it was on par with PNG animations from the recent season of One Punch Man. So yeah, I'm praying that they give time and money to...
Okay, let's see what 8-bit is. Let's see what 8-bit is cooked up in their tenure. All these damn A1 anime. 8-bit. Show me something. Yeah, slime being your best bet is not good looks. Slime being the best you got, and that's no hate to slime. You know, we watched the first episode today. It was cool. But slime being the best you can show for yourself is not good looks. Not good looks at all. I think I'm going JC and 8-bit and F and bumping up Gynax for Legacy. And yeah, slime isn't bad from what I've seen so far. It's just not great. Being the best you have to show is slime. You go to any of these other studios, they got at least, I think everything else on this list has something goated in their first slot. Slime is like above average. You know what I mean? So I think we go in JC and 8-bit F. And then that bumps Gynax up to D. All right, now we have Mappa, Trigger, and Wit. Let's see what old boy has to say about those three.
Towards the next season of Blue Lock, but this is a reason why they ought to have a very mixed reputation as an animation studio, with them being able to produce absolute peak and stinkers. Moving on, we have Mappa. One of the
this is the youngest studio in here, isn't there?
Animation studios today. What's surprising is that they actually formed very recently in 2011 by one of the co-founders of
Mappa. Like, niggas glaze Mappa now. Mappa was not on the map until 2020 exactly with God of High School. They did shit before that, but they weren't on the map being talked about till God of High School. I remember when God of High School and Crunchyroll and Mappa and Webtoon were first doing their thing. Niggas was like, where's Mappa? Where's Mappa? Now, you know, post JJK and Chainsaw Man. I'm not gonna lie, Mappa is like the Toei and what was the other one? The Toei Imperio of the modern era, where they scooped up the biggest IPs, Chainsaw Man, JJK. You know, they scooped them up and adapted them, and you know what I mean? We'll see if they ride those out or if they continue to push forward. And you know what I mean? We'll see. I think anime now is so fast that you can't really pull a Toei anymore and ride out one franchise for 20 plus years. And so I think Mappa will adapt quicker, but then again, we do have the work-life balance shit that we gotta talk about.
House, as I mentioned, Masao Maruyama, and this meant that they were extremely well connected from the start, and they have grown rapidly since then. They also
put out some mid. Mappa has a big catalog of mid. I always make the joke, there's a Studio Mappa and there's a Studio Mappa Plus that they give to the shows they actually like. Mappa puts out a lot of you know what I mean? We got to be careful not to just focus on the best of what they put out.
Jujutsu Kaisen, Attack on Titan, the final season, Chainsaw Man, Hell's Paradise, and Vinland Saga Season 2. That is a crazy catalog, especially considering, again, they started in 2011. However, in 2016, Maruyama left and was replaced by Manabu
Interesting.
Soka, and this is where they started to become more of a controversial studio. Despite their amazing quality, the work conditions
was, we know about the JJK season 2 map and shit. Niggas was on Twitter crying, bruh.
Just straight up awful. In particular, during season 2 of JJK, there were multiple animators describing the brutal work conditions and the terrible treatment while working on the season.
Shit,
it's a big shame because I love the shows Mappa makes, but I think we can all agree that
this is not okay, bruh. Like, this has to be fixed.
Animes get paid more and they just get treated way better. Another studio form.
Okay, we're gonna talk about Trigger in a sec. Let's look at what Mappa has to show for themselves. I think we all kind of know. But with Mappa, I don't want to focus on their big titles because we all know them. I want to scroll down a little bit and, you know, look at some of the, okay, they have Lazarus, Campfire Cooking. How the fuck do they have Hajime no Ippo? Oh, Rising. I don't know what that is. Once we get down here, it's like, okay, we kind of putting out like Yasuke. Come on, bruh. We kind of putting out some you know what I mean? So yeah, I want to be careful not to just focus on the best of what they got. And I would like to see, like, now with the position that Mappa's in, where they have like this AOT, JJK, you know, where they have this stack up here, because of their position they're in, I would want to see more, you know what I mean, shit like, I forgot what the English name for this was. Terror and Resonance and shit like that, you know. I think it's time for them to start dipping more experimental. I think we're going to fill out B. It's B or C. It's B or C. These next three, Mappa, Trigger, and Wit, are all fighting for B and C slots, first of all. Let's get that out the way. But with the work conditions controversy being as big as it is, I think what I'm going to have to do is throw Mappa and high C, bump A1 down to D. Because even if they perform above C level, if we take into account the mid that they put out, well, no, they do. Let's see. They have pushed the movie industry forward too, and that's rare. They have pushed the movie industry forward. I think I'll go. I don't know though. Wit. They pushed the movie industry forward a little bit. Kyoto to C is crazy. Hell no. Kyoto is solidly in B. Should low-key be in A. Only reason it's not is because of the reasons I spoke about earlier. Definitely not C level. I think Mappa can be high C level. You all are thinking of the best of Mappa. You all are going like, it's like if you take an artist and take their three best songs. I think of Mappa as like a Drake, right? Drake has 3 to 10 bangers that everyone fucks with regardless. But he also has some stinkers. You know, y'all are thinking of the peak of Mappa as opposed to Mappa as a whole. Mappa as a whole, you know what I mean? Niggas must have forgot what they did to God of High School. Niggas must have forgot about, niggas don't even know about all the mid they put out because that's how under the radar it goes. So yeah, they have their CSMs and their JJKs, but they have their Yasuke's too. Well, some of the greats is crazy. We don't know if they're the greats yet. They have some of the very goods. Maybe one of the greats. Maybe one of the greats. They have some of the very goods. Greats is crazy. Anywho, let's move on.
Formed in 2011,
Trigger.
the studio Trigger, which was made by former Gainax staff, the studio that shut down in 2024.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
Fortunately,
All these studios seem to be kind of tied together. It's always like staff bouncing off and you know, doing their thing.
Trigger feels like a natural successor to Gainax. It became famous through explosive, over-the-top anime like Killer Killer.
I am very
Academia,
fond of
Cyberpunk
Triggers,
Edgerunners, earning
of Triggers
reputation as
aesthetic
one of
a
anime's
lot.
most chaotic, but also recognizable studio.
Yeah, like you know when some shit is Trigger made, bro. I'm a big fan of Trigger's aesthetic.
Next we have Wit Studio.
Okay, they just flew over that. Also, we're not giving AOT to Mappa. They finished AOT. I'd say they brought the quality of AOT down, honestly. Like Mappa is still on C Watch. Okay, let's see. Yeah, Trigger. I love the Trigger style. I think the Trigger style is, to be fair, a love it or hate it sort of style. But they do, it's just their output is low. Their output is pretty low. But when they put shit out, they put it out. Cyberpunk? Ooh, Delicious in Dungeon too. Okay. Let's see. Trigger and Mappa are kind of interchangeable for me. I like Trigger's work more. Mappa has good output. I'll leave Mappa in B off pure clout. Just because, you know, they picked up some of the big IPs and, you know, their name is known. But no, Mappa is I wouldn't even say Mappa's an A running. I would put any of these maybe not Sunrise, but I would put Kyoto, Bones, and Ufotable in A running before I even think about putting Mappa in A. The only reason Trigger's getting C is because output wise they're pretty slim. But I think that's kind of their thing. You know what I mean? Like, you know a Trigger anime when you see it, and one of the reasons is because there is so few. All right, we're coming around to the end of the list. Wit Studio.
Only in 2012, pretty much
2012, pretty recently,
of making AOT. And as I mentioned before, they are a subsidiary of production.
But they make other shit now.
With their first anime being AOT, they were immediately
they were on the map. AOT, like niggas talk about giving AOT to Mappa. No, AOT is Wit, bro.
Put into the spotlight, but they were also able to branch out after that into other super successful anime such as Vinland Saga Season 1 and Spy Family.
Yeah, Vinland Saga Season 1. Spy Family. A1 should be B. It has the best anime that are good. 7 Deadly Sins, Promised Neverland, 86, Fairy Tail. Most of what you named. You just named 7 Deadly Sins, 86. You just named 7 Deadly Sins, Fairy Tail, Sword Art Online, Mashle, and Solo Leveling. You just gave me 5 examples of mid of why it belongs where it belongs. And let's not even talk about that's the best of what they can show for themselves. Let's not even talk about what happens when we talk about the worst of what they got to show.
And they are even doing the One Piece reboot.
They are they are hitting that reboot, but it's not out yet. We can't give them credit for something that's not out yet.
Shortening the amount of episodes and significantly improving the visuals, especially from the earlier arcs. But they have put out a crazy amount.
Yeah, Wit might be visually one of the best. Wit might visually be one of the best
to a very high quality in such a short amount of time. So unfortunately, as anime goes, it's no surprise that they ought to have a very bad reputation for workplace conditions,
but they got the
and massively
workplace shit.
Overworking their animators. The newest anime studio.
All right, we'll talk about Science Saru last. That's Madhouse's baby, isn't it? Anyhow, let's look at Wit's roster real quick. AOT, Spy Family, Seraph of the End, Great Pretender. Vivi. Yeah, they got some shit. They got some shit over here at Wit. They got their shit together. Vinland, yeah. Okay. Where the fuck did Science Saru go? Did my Science Saru not? Hold on. Let me put it back then. I had to upload my own image for Science Saru. All right. Wit. How many slots we got in B? 5 slots for B. Okay. I'm going to put Wit tentatively in B for now. One of these are probably going to be bumped up to A. One of these are going to be bumped up to A. We'll just have to figure out which one. Let's hear about Science Saru, though, before we finalize our rankings.
Which was formed in 2013 with Science Saru by director Masasaki Yusa.
Yeah, These two are my goats, bro. These two, y'all don't know about Kimonozume.
Never mind. Some of their first work was actually
they were on Adventure Time. They were on that weird episode where Jake went into that 3D world and shit.
Which makes sense considering that unlike most anime studios, they actually do not really care about the nationality of the anime is, and only really their skill level, and as a result they hire many from different countries. Devilman Crybaby was a
Devilman Crybaby, 𝙠𝙠.
It was released globally through Netflix and made
And one thing I've always respected about Science Saru, I don't think I'll be able to give them too many points for this because of their output still being low because they're new and they're really just now getting into the swing of their things. But I love that what they're doing for the more experiment. Like I've always called them the weird nigga studio, bruh. You know what I mean? They adapt some weird shit, but they adapt it well. And put it out to an audience who might not have even fucked with it otherwise.
Saru known outside to a much bigger circle of people. If you've seen this show, you know that it is super experimental, which is kind of what they've become known for with crazy colors and crazy.
And also with the series they got coming down the loop, like the Ghost in a Shell remake, that one shit with the Mongolian girl, it looks like they might be like, you know, really trying to bolster their catalog. So obviously we can't give them credit for that now. I think I know where I'm going to put them. But they're well on their way up.
And that's also reflected in one of their newer animes, 𝙠𝙠, which I'm super excited for season 3. If you haven't watched it, I'd recommend it. Now, I know this video is titled All 17 Anime Studios Explained, but I just wanted to cover the main one.
Yeah, there's a lot more. There is one thing I want to look up real quick because there is some shifting around we have to do. So first thing I want to go back and look at Sunrise. Yes. Okay. I think Sunrise has to be bumped down for a lack of recency. They haven't moved anything tough in like 20 years. Because that was standing out to me kind of crazy. I think Sunrise has to be bumped down to like top. Like I put Trigger in B before I do Sunrise. Science Saru, I'm going to put them at the top of C. I think if we're looking at pure quality, they could definitely go higher. I love what they're doing for sort of more experimental works. But they're just too new. You know what I mean? They're still climbing their way up. I think if we redid this or when we redo this in 5 or so years, then, you know, we might, you know, shit might be different. Okay, so we have our 2 F tiers filled out. D tier needs 3. A1 is getting bumped down for sure. C tier has 4. I think that's set in stone. B tier needs 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which means I'm going to bump one of those up to A. I think I'm bumping Bones up to A. And then I'm bumping Madhouse to, I'd say Madhouse is the best all around. I mean, again, I'll go over my argument one last time. Madhouse, you know what I mean? They got like a little of everything in this shit. And it's also because it's old as shit, right? But they got a little everything, right? You got your all-time classic with Death Note, right? This is important. If you don't have an all-time classic, then you're not even in S discussions. You got like, okay, One Punch Man, Big, Hunter x Hunter. You got your battle shonen. If they didn't have Hunter x Hunter up here, we'd also be having another discussion, right? I think with how anime is proliferated through the world via battle shonen, you got to have one battle shonen success to be S. You got like, you know, your Parasites, okay, your ecchi, but then like, okay, we got our Monster, our Frieren, right? Monster filling in that like slow, contemplative, seinen sort of gap. Frieren, again, carrying it in the modern day. That's probably the biggest critique I have for them right now. They're not doing too much in the present day, if not for Frieren. But then what I give them a lot of credit for is as you scroll down, Nana's pretty big too. I didn't even peep that. You got shit like Perfect Blue, right? An experimental art housey, often considered one of the best anime movies of all time. You know, you got like your shoujo. A lot of studios won't even touch shoujo. You know. And so, yeah, just broadly speaking, I think they have the best all around. You know, they might not have the highest highs. Well, you can argue that they do with Death Note and shit like that. But they just have like the best, most well-rounded scope. I think that, you know what I mean? I wouldn't be mad if someone wanted to put Ghibli as the S tier. I think Ghibli, though, the output and the lack of TV anime is kind of hurting it. Bones I bumped up to A, largely because of personal bias. I also do think they have a bit cleaner of a record, though, than something like a Mappa, which kind of puts out a lot of mid every now and then. Yeah, Trigger, Ufotable. I could see Ufotable in A over Bones, but again, output, I could see Kyoto in A over Bones, but again, like I said earlier, Kyoto kind of has a lack of diverging from their bread and butter that, you know, just wouldn't allow me to put it on that same tier as Bones. But yeah, I think this is the list right here. Madhouse at the top. Ghibli and Bones coming in at A. Kyoto, Ufotable, Mappa, Wit, Trigger coming in at B. Science, Saru, Sunrise, Toei, and IG at C. Gainax, Perio, and A1 at D. And JC Staff and 8-Bum. That's mean. 8-Bit at F tier.